Is a strong portfolio enough to get hired, or do employers value process and problem solving more? I mean, isn't your portfolio
Already a
um,
representation of your process.
process and problem solving? Um, yes. What I personally find hella annoying is when uh, recruiters give you an assignment. I'm like, देख लिया ना portfolio, देख लिया ना काम, है हो गया है ना मतलब basically तुमने assess कर लिया है. Like, we would like to see if you're gonna be a great fit for our organization. Um, well, look at my fucking portfolio. Like in some cases, I enjoy assignments, but in some cases, I think they can get exploitative. And in those cases, I generally don't indulge in those assignments, especially when they ask you to create like a 1 month calendar for their social media along with a strategy. I'm like, I know what you're doing, and I'm not going to do this for you.
I think we are dealing with like two topics, Abhi. So I'll answer
Yeah, yeah, I
the
have answered this very personally. Like, I have taken this
assignment
to
one.
heart.
While I was working my previous job, I was also like briefly involved in recruiting and hiring people, and I think assignments are helpful. Of
Okay.
course, like maybe it is a bit of a task for someone who's applying. I totally get that. And if they give you ridiculous tasks like these ki ek month ka calendar and all, I think it's completely unfair, and I totally get that. But like it is a bit of a thing wherein you have like money at stake, and you really want to know if this
Mhm.
person is like. I do understand that, let's say, there's a editor, and I do see that, oh, like great editing skills, but you always want to test key in my context, how is this person able to perform, just to
Mhm.
be clear, and just so that even they get a taste of what they might be doing in that process. Maybe they would even understand if even they think of it or not. And I feel like it is also kind of a like level when you understand the seriousness of this person as to, oh, do they really want this job? Because it's very difficult having someone in the team who is actually not excited about the company at all, and is probably just there because they really wanted to get a job desperately. But you need people who are motivated, and they have some little interest beyond just the paycheck when you're working with them.
Right.
So I think in that perspective, from an employer's POV, I think assignments come in very helpful. It is क्या बोलते हैं, vetting process का integral part, I feel. Um,
But I feel they have to be a bit more realistic.
Bit more realistic, of
They
course.
can't, like, I don't think, I mean, I think we digressed from answering the actual question,
Yeah, I'm coming to
but
that. Um,
uh,
yeah,
yeah, I do believe that assignments need to be more pragmatic. I don't, I personally don't engage with make a 1 month calendar for me. I'm like, no, that's too much. If you're asking me 5 posts, I can still like think about it depending on who I am working with. There has to be a certain degree of uh, reality involved,
absolutely. No, I completely understand. You can't give a mammoth of a task and be like, oh, this is part of your
unless you're
employees.
Amazon. I mean, I think the scale of the company does play a huge role on whether or not you want to engage with something like this. But um,
I feel smaller companies को तो there's you need more motivated people than like people working in bigger companies, because there's so much of structure involved when it comes to kind of tracking the productivity of people, and kind of just
Mhm.
like keeping a check on who is doing what. When it comes to smaller teams, there needs to be self motivation. So I feel for smaller teams the vetting process needs to be stronger, like contrary to what you said, I think.
Perhaps. I think I have very mixed opinions on this. And on the whole, I do have a personal bias against assignments.
Okay.
I do. uh, because I'm like, I've worked so hard on my portfolio. Just see my portfolio, damn it. But yeah, I
So,
think it's
coming back to the
you
question,
can be more pragmatic here. Yes, coming back to the question,
um,
we
I
digress.
personally believe it comes down to your portfolio because, as I said, once you enter the company, they have their own creative process or their own general process of working with anything. So eventually you adopt to their process, and as Harini said already, that your portfolio in itself, like when you present portfolio pieces, you do need to involve a bit of a process in there. Now there are very mixed opinions about this. When some people are like, "Oh, we love to see the process," and some people are like, just skip the process. I want to see the final outcome. So there are both these POVs involved. But I would say adding a little bit of process won't do you any bad. It would only help you and kind of strengthen your portfolio further. And then that also removes doubts from like an employer is probably checking out your portfolio as to, oh, so they did think about it, and they just didn't like come up with the final thing and just went with it. And I think I personally like including or like seeing portfolios which also include ki, okay, like we tried out this thing and it didn't work out, so we went a little other direction, because that
Right.
shows thoda process. So I think failures should be involved in your portfolio as well. So I do think process is important, but yeah, like strengthen your portfolio, I would say, and that will speak more.
Yes, to add to that point, I think add more of your work when you're showing the process and less of. I personally feel adding 1,000 boards is not doing you any good because it is visually overstimulating. It is, I mean, sure, it was part of your process, but you need to know which aspects you need to distill and which aspects you need to show more explosively. So I believe your work has to be shown more explosively. And if you're going to focus more on showing 1,500 boards on your Behance, then that's just you giving emphasis to someone else's work. So I feel you need to be able to distill between uh, aspects of your process that you show and how you show them. And I think your work would like it would really take your work the extra distance when you can write and when you can talk about what you've done very succinctly, like with a lot of brevity, with a lot of clarity. Like if you have a few words accompanying every step of the process, it is going to substantially enhance your portfolio.
Absolutely.
Substantially.
Imagine like an employer, they have to go through like hundreds of these portfolios. So you can't just keep on going on and on about the process because they also need to go through a lot of stuff in the same day. So I would also say, I mean, we already have covered about how much of process you should involve, but I would go a little bit ahead and also state that include your best work as much as possible and don't just quantity wise and like put stuff in your portfolio. And when you present, try to present the best ones ahead. I mean, there's a lot of kind of theories and formulas that people have as to, okay, first one should be your second best and the second should be your first best, and there's a lot of that as well. But I personally believe ki, okay, when from an employer's point of view, you're looking at a portfolio, I just want to kind of get to know you as quickly as possible because I don't
Right.
have the whole day and like 1 hour to go through your work completely.
Right.
So even if I get an idea ki हाँ process दिख रहा है, I can see that there's good work, I would take you ahead into the second round and then kind of get to know you better there instead of sitting with your portfolio and getting to know you through your portfolio only, kind of a thing.
Right. Right. Yeah, I agree. And I personally, my strategy was very different when I was applying. I put my best work ahead and I didn't include quantity. I had quality and diversity. So I had around 2 to 3 projects in every category or every aspect of work that I wanted to specialize on. And what I had ended up doing was um, I had ended up structuring my portfolio based on the requirements of a given um, position that I'm applying for. So if a certain position calls for more, let's say, conceptualization and let's say not as much of hands-on work. So I would put work that is more conceptually heavy um, in the beginning of my portfolio and put work that is, let's say, more hands-on later. And if a project requires to see how good you're at photography and it's not probably as much concerned with, it's very visually oriented and not concerned with your writing skills. I believe that again is a very practical evaluation that you need to undertake. You need to understand that the requirements of you need to alter your portfolio or you need to be open to altering or creating shifts in your portfolio based on where and what you're applying
Be
for.
clear about what you exactly want to do. I mean, not in the sense that to the very crisp कि okay मुझे यही करना है, but let's say sure you can also write well, but do you want to write a lot in the job that you're applying for? If not, then don't show a lot of that, because then it confuses the employer and then you get a role according to that. So
Right,
be sure कि okay what are you offering them. Don't try
right,
to offer everything if you're not willing to work on everything.
right. In my case, when I was applying for my job, there was no assignment involved. Um, they did require uh, animation and motion graphic skills. And given that I was a textile design student and none of my none of the projects in my portfolio involved much of motion graphics or animation for that matter, what I did was I took about a week and I submitted my work on the last day of basically uh, them accepting portfolios. But I took that time and I learned After Effects in that week. Like I wouldn't say I mastered After Effects, but yes, what I ended up doing was I just took it on as a creative challenge and I was like, hey, see, I can learn a software that I was not exposed to during my 4 years of degree college because that's how much this job excites me. And you have a look. This is a short animated clip. Like I made a 1 minute video and it's also up on my Instagram. But yeah, I made a 1 minute video and I was like, hey, these are my storytelling skills. This is something that I can bring to the table. This is how I can talk about the company or I can talk about what the company offers on different platforms. And this is another skill under my belt, apart from everything else that I bring to the table. And yeah, I think that really helped. And I also showed them that proves, and it should be the case that like your learning doesn't end with your academic training or you are perpetually a student of design. If anything, I'm more of a student of design now than when I was in college. So that is something that is perpetuated. And I think people love when you can be candid about the fact that you're going to be learning on the job and you're going to let the job inform a lot of creative decisions that you need to take and that you're open to upskilling for the job and you are open to pushing yourself and you are open to, let's say, expanding your creative horizons for a given project. I think that is something that really makes you look very compelling.
But yeah, like in your case, you were pretty much interested in animation, after a certain point, and you really wanted to explore that. And I feel like this came in as a very nice opportunity wherein you also had a time limit, कि, okay, 1 week me, you have to like learn this
Mm.
software. And you more than comfortable were happy with the fact that okay, you will be doing a lot of animation, when you actually start working.
Mm.
So it's good that you were clear about it, that is important. If you are not sure if you want to do a certain thing, I think don't then like be clear about it कि नहीं करना है. Don't just for the sake of getting the job do it, because you will get to do a lot more of the same thing then. And with creative thing, you have to enjoy, because let's say when you start working, there's a lot of creativity on demand that starts happening, and which is not always a very comfortable space to be in. So you need to be sure that जो भी creativity on demand हो रहा है is at least from a place that interests you. So
Right.
be like clear about that. Like just be sure of, okay, this is something that interests me. It excites me. So then you can take all the risks that you want to take.